In this video, we take a look at the GVM-1000D 3-light kit. And hey, always try and include some learning in my review videos. If you don't care, skip to the review section right up here somewhere. Use the time markers on the video or in the description below. Some poo-poo the age-old 3-point lighting system, and that's a shame, as learning how to do 3-point lighting is a great way to learn the basics of lighting. Once you have that down, then you can go play with all the other methods of lighting. Simply put, a 3-point lighting is set up for filming people, you or your talent. You set one light off to the side called a key or main light, then another on the other side called a fill light, finally a light behind or above called the hair light, backlight, etc. The key or main light is the brightest of all three. You nail that by setting the brightness. Don't worry about anything else than what's hitting this side of the face. Now set up the fill light, and its job is to fill in the shadows on the other side of the face and add some depth. You set it to a much lower brightness, not the same, otherwise the video won't have any depth. Finally, the hair light, usually the dimmest, which separates you from the background, again, adding depth to the shot by pulling you off the back wall. Let's see what all these look like. We have the key light, which is the brightest, the fill light to add some depth and fill in the shadows, and finally, the hair light out behind me to pull me against the back wall and give me some depth. Oh, and that light over there? That's just an accent light. You can add lights to the back and cut a swath, and we'll look at all that later in the video. You can go three ways: ultra cheap, budget, or drop some serious coin. You can buy these cheap $6 lights, get some LED bulbs, and learn how to light yourself with those. Do they throw enough light? Maybe 15-watt bulbs will do. How about 100-watt? Do you need 500 watts for your videos? What is diffusion? How can you diffuse them? These are the questions you should ask and learn and try and achieve before you invest a lot of money into lighting. When you figured out how to get good lighting with these cheap lights, then buy some real lights. If you have the money, drop the coin and buy some awesome lights once. I suggest the Aperture 60D and 60X lights, but there are a lot of options out there. If not, your middle budget ground would be something like the GVM-1000D light kit or something similar. First, these are a deal. You get an entire 3-point lighting system all in one package. It comes with a great case, 3 light stands, 3 LED panels with barn doors, although plastic, and diffusers, 3 AC power supplies, which are 15 feet long, and built-in Bluetooth to use the lights remotely on an app. These are also bicolor lights, meaning RGB lights, meaning instead of just plain white light, you can dial in the color and also create some interesting effects, which we'll test later in the video. At $469 for everything in the kit as of May 2021, that's a serious deal. Looking at these awesome Aperture 60X bicolor lights, around $400 a piece, that's $1,200 for 3. You haven't even started buying light stands yet. Are they worth it? Hell yes, that's why I have them. But if you're new to this or don't have the money, you can get the entire kit for the price of one of these Aperture lights. The housing is all aluminum, or for those across the pond, aluminium. Each panel weighs 2.6 pounds or 1.2 kilograms. The panel measures 12.5 by 12.5 by 1.6 inches or 318 by 318 by 40 millimeters. Since it's a passive cooling system, you don't have fans, meaning you don't have fan noise baked into your footage, which will drive you insane. The U-frame mount is also metal, it pivots, and it also allows multiple mounting options with this little dude down here. Although these barn doors are plastic, I found them to be quite sturdy. They're not flimsy, and I don't see those breaking unless you really drop them on the floor. The LEDs light at a 45-degree angle, with 736 LEDs on each panel, 320 white, 320 warm, and 96 RGB, which is how you can dial in color and K value, which I'll show you in a moment. These lights sport a very respectable CRI of 97, that's Color Rendering Index, used to indicate how true the color is. For example, if you had 2 lights, one set at a daylight white, around 5200K, and the CRI was low on one or more of these, they wouldn't match, and that could be a problem. Each light specs at a brightness of 15,000 lux at half a meter, 5,000 lux at 1 meter. That's great for you spec geeks. The only test I care about, which you'll see in the testing section coming up, is when I mount these lights, do they have enough power to light me in the studio? Unlike the Aperture 60s, there's no additional diffusers or softboxes, which are additional coin for the aperture, but GVM tells me they are working on that. The back panel is where all the action takes place. You have the AC plug, 120 to 240 volts, and the unit's power rating is 50 watts. What's really nice is 2 Sony NPF style battery mounts to provide many hours of use, although note both batteries must be in place to power the unit. A simple toggle on switch turns the lights on, and we have a nice readable display. The left knob controls the brightness from 1 to 100%, and these are stepless, meaning no click, click, click while adjusting. Let's look at the LED display as there's a lot of info packed here. The screen is quite readable and displays the current, brightness, battery power, and a lot of other information depending on what mode you are in. The up and down buttons are used to set the channels, and this knob has a ton of different functions depending on the mode. I would have liked to have a few more knobs on the back instead of all these modes, but that's my personal preference. I'll show how the remote app works and all the modes in the testing section later. Okay, as a first test, I've set up the GVM lights. They're harsh, I haven't diffused them or anything, and that's okay. I just wanted to test the percentage of these things, like how much power do they output in this studio with everything else off. I was actually kind of surprised because A, they're RGB lights, and B, this is a lot of power. This light over here, my key light, which is about 6 feet away from me, where I usually put it, that's at 15%. And the fill light over there, which is about 7 feet away from me, is at 5%. Let me show you at 100% both of these. Wow. Okay, I didn't change anything on the camera. It's still sitting there. I'm shooting at the same ISO. I'm still shooting. Everything is the same. That's up to 100%. The fill light's up to 100%. And these are really, 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 really bright. So let's turn these back down. And I'm just going to show you how this works on the back wall. That gives you a better idea. Man, those are bright. Okay, currently, that wall way back there, that is 7 to 8 feet away. The light is currently set at 5200K, and that is at 1%. Let's run the brightness up and I'll show you what I mean. There's 100%. That's really bright. Check it out. That's crazy bright. Currently it's at 5200K. We've just dropped it down to 3200K. Now I've run it up to its maximum, which is 5600K. Let's drop this back down to say 5000K, which I think is about right for this room. Okay, I'm back to this close-up view as I wanted to show you a few of the functions of this thing. The mode button, we have 4 choices. One is rotate. That's its default, meaning that this light works on its own and all the controls are on its own. The next mode is slave, and what it's saying is, I'm going to listen to another light that's set as the master, and whatever you set that other light to, I'm going to listen to you. The next mode designated right here is master, and that's saying that I'm the controller, and if there's any other lights out there that are listening to me, I'm the guy. I'm going to determine what you do. And finally, the last press is app. That means I want to control this light or any other light set to that using the app itself. The rightmost button, which controls the K values, will also accept a single press. I won't go much into these, but when you press this, you can set one press. You can adjust the hue of the light itself or the color. That's really pretty. Then the next press, you can adjust the saturation. And we're back to CCT, which is its normal default, where you can adjust the K value of the light from 3200K to 5600K. If you hold down the button for a couple of seconds, now we're into effects. You have 8 scenes. This is scene 1, which is lightning. And you can adjust all the parameters for that. Scene 2, which is police car. And again, you can adjust all its different parameters. Scene 3, which is a candlelight. It's just a soft K glow. And again, you can adjust everything on here. Scene 4, which is TV. You know, like you set the light off to the side and you kind of get that glow going from a TV. It's especially useful on someone's face, especially if you turn down the brightness of the unit. Scene 5 is a bad light bulb. It just looks like it's kind of a flicker. I wouldn't, there it goes. Light bulb went out, oh, back on. I wouldn't use it at this intensity, but I'm just showing it to you so you can see what's happening here. Scene 6 is a party. Woohoo! It just does a bunch of different RGB values, etc. through the light. Another press gives us disco. Wow, that's really interesting. On the monitor right now, it looks like the way it's doing that, it looks like the light's actually moving in itself. But this would be type of a party scene or something like that. And then finally, scene 8 is paparazzi, you know, the flashing light bulb type thing. Again, I could adjust all the values and the speed and everything else. A single press again on this right button takes us out of that mode and drops us back. Let's play with controlling all 3 lights off of this unit itself. Again, no change to the camera or anything else. The wall is a good 6 to 7 feet away from these lights. What I've done is I've set the furthest light over here as the light that accepts commands from this guy, the master light. I've set the same thing up to here. They're all on channel 1, and I've made this guy the controller of these other 2 lights. So now I can control these lights. Let's mess around with the K value. Let's mess around with the brightness, the left knob here. We'll run the brightness all the way up on all 3. That's at 3200K. Now let's move the K value from 3200K up. That's 5600K. Let's go with full brightness. Unless you're lighting something like, I don't know, from 20, 30 feet away, these are really, really bright. It's kind of cool that you can do that. Let's turn this back down. All 3 lights are at 5000K, being controlled by this guy right here. This is at 30%. Those are really bright. I can also control, by setting this up this way, I can also control the effects. Let's again hold down this knob on the controller once. Now we're into the paparazzi effect that I left off before. And it's nice because it's doing that effect, but it's not totally in tandem. Let's go through a few more of these effects here on all 3 lights. Lightning, you can see that they're not exactly the same. They're offset, which is neat. There's a cop car. Here's the next one. Here's the next one. I think this is disco or party or something like that. Hold down a press again, and we're back. Now what I've done is I've connected up the app here, which I'll show on the screen what I'm doing. There's one thing that I think they're working on, but they need to fix, which is I can only connect to one of these lights at a time on the app itself. Let's turn that off and turn that on. But I figured out if I set one of these lights to slave and the other light to slave and this one to master and then switch this to app, then I can control all 3. So as far as I'm concerned, unless they say different, you can either control all 3 or just one light. But again, this is pretty cool. I can go through and I can adjust the CCT. I can adjust the K value up and down. Same with the HSI. I can go through and adjust any of the colors I kind of want here. Purple, blah, blah, blah. I can also go through and name scenes, etc. Here's a scene. There's disco. There's lightning. There's candle. Bad bulb. Party, etc. And as I said before, you can adjust these. Like, let's pull down the brightness here on these. There we go. And maybe we want to play with the cycle on this. You notice how the cycle is nearly nothing. That's 5 seconds. And this way we're going to pull it down to 0.3 seconds. And that's just going to go crazy. It's pretty cool. I like that the app is here. For me, I would actually use this in this mode because I wouldn't do this at all. Let's go back to CCT. I'd use this to turn on and off all the lights, to adjust maybe the brightness of these lights, etc. Play with the color temperature of all these lights while I was messing around. But as far as I'm concerned, this would be really cool as secondary lights or backlights or whatever. But until they update this app itself, they really need to allow you to control individual lights or control them in tandem without setting them up this way. Now, I could certainly set one of these to app and this one to app and this one app and handle each one separately. I'd like to be able to control each one separately in this app, but it's still a really cool idea. I almost hesitate to include cons since you're getting an entire 3-point light kit for an amazingly low price. That aside, the light stands are not that great and obviously cheap, but if you don't have light stands, you'll appreciate having them and not having to buy more stuff just to get your lighting going. They could include amazing light stands, but then the kit would have to be priced a lot more. The light themselves are not the brightest, but they're really pretty darn bright. Are they going to compare to an aperture light? Not at all, but as you saw in my tests, Wow, you need 2 batteries on the back of this to power this? Okay, fine. Barn doors are plastic. That's totally okay with me. In fact, I kind of like them because they're kind of sturdy and they don't go jigga 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 when you flap them around, but that's kind of a personal preference. The app itself, I'm going to ding them on the app. I'm sure it's in development. I'm sure they're working to get more stuff with the app and make it work all better and everything else. But the app for me, it's kind of useless at this point. I can control one light, especially in this kind of situation in the studio. I can control one light and then have to switch it back to app and turn that one on to app and that one, etc. And either that or I put them all in tandem and then I get the same brightness as I covered in 3-point lighting. I can't set my lights to the different variations. Hey, if you're just getting into lighting or ready to move up to budget lighting, these are a great deal. It won't cost you a ton of money and you'll learn a lot being able to figure out what you really need in the future when you do invest in some high quality lights. Although I do recommend these, as always, do your own research. Decide what you really need, what fits your budget, and buy accordingly. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. Here's a tip. If you wear glasses like me and you have a 3-point lighting system, well, basically your videos will suck. Do I suggest these? Sure. I think you should drop $10,000 on a lighting system, affiliate link below. I almost hesitate to include cons because I'll end up in jail. And then we have disco lights because that's what keeps you staying alive. Hey, if you like this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, click the bell, share the video, buy my courses, make a donation, join my membership, buy me coffee, invite me over for dinner, send me some plane tickets, make my house payment, get me a sponsor deal with BMW, work for me for free, buy me a villa, get me an interview on a talk show, close me a book deal, buy me a real dinosaur, and send me a penguin. Thanks for watching.